Gyani AI are our gold partners. And Gyani AI is a voice AI-led deep tech conversational AI company backed by Samsung. So here he's going to talk about the future of voice technology representing Gyani AI. So sir, how does Gyani AI stand out from the rest of the crowd? I had a conversation with him and I asked him a very horrible question in this tech summit. I asked him which company out here stands out from the rest, which is the best voice tech company. He said that it is obviously Gyani AI. And I want to know why.
I think every self-respecting company is going to say that they're the best, right? But we think that we are the best because we are working in this space of voice AI and speech tech, right? And whatever you may hear from others or some of our own folks, this is not a solved problem, right? And what you really need is deep tech to get your nuances better. You need to have the deep tech capabilities so that your solutions are better in this space. So we have our own ASRs, we have our own NLUs, we have our own TTS, we have voice cloning. Not saying that we solved everything, but we think that we are better than everybody else in most of these things that we do. Again, bring some reality check to a lot of this stuff. As we speak more, is hey, you know what? Everybody tells you that you get like 99% accuracy on speech to text. Have you guys tried Google's ASR or Microsoft's ASR on telephony channel, on an 8K channel? And you'll be surprised at the numbers that you get there, right? The second thing is, it's very important today to really custom tune your models. You take any API off the shelf, yeah, you'll be able to do it for a certain amount of accuracy. You want to improve your accuracy, you need to have your own models. That's why you need to be deep tech in order to do well in this industry. And we are a deep tech company backed by Samsung. When Samsung was looking for a partner for Bixby, they tried out Google for languages like Hindi and a bunch of other Indian languages. They tried out Google, and it's the tech team, the mobile tech team that did the evaluation. And they choose us as their partner, as an alternative to global and local providers, right? Having said that, I'm not saying that we solved every problem out there. Just saying that we do this better than probably anybody else.
Thanks for the answer. I think that answers the question.
Are we ready?
Yes, we are ready.
So you probably recognize Jimmy Fallon, some of you folks, and obviously Jimmy Fallon's not endorsing us here.
Hi, welcome to the management meeting. We are happy to have you. Over to my colleague Jenny for a brief.
So as you just noticed, we had Jimmy Fallon talking about this presentation that's going to happen here. You notice some amount of lip sync out there, and this is something that we just got together yesterday night, and a lot of voice cloning. So what are we trying to say here, right? A lot of folks in the past, did a lot of chatbots, right? And a bunch of companies said, the opportunity is in chat, right? Look at the reality today. You ask any of the people who run customer service centers in India, they'll say at best, if you ask them, they'll be excited about chat. They say, but how much is chat today, right? 2%, max of 4%, the best of cases that I've heard, right? So if you're really looking to impact customers, right, you need to get to voice. That's what people started talking about. Because chat, well, can you type in Indian languages? You can't, right? Would you like to type in Indian languages? Are we culturally suited to typing? I don't think we are, right? We all love to talk. We are Indians after all, right? And so in that context, chat with about 2 to 4% doesn't cut it. So a lot of these, so and we've been with voice from day one, right? Because voice is the most natural form of communication. Voice on telephony lines has its own challenges, right? Voice on any channel. You're talking telephony, there's huge amount of other channels. You're talking about radar, you're talking about satellite, There are so many channels that your speech to text has to work, right? Over multiple codecs, right? And we got into it fast. Now, a lot of folks are getting into voice, but you know what? The future is video, right? And the future of, I would say, a lot of conversational AI that you'll see in the future will be video. One of the things is, have you ever seen video for, let's say, used for, say, email communication? I mean, email is there all the time, right? Why do you think video is not used for personalized communication today? Right? Because you can't, right? Because you say that, you know what, I cannot personalize to whom this video is going. I cannot personalize the message based on, let's suppose he bought an insurance policy last month, and I want to cross-sell or upsell another product to him. You can't today do that, a lot with video. But that's the future. And we are doing some of those things. We're working, for example, with an insurance company. What we're doing there is based on the customer profile, right? He's sent out a welcome video and he says, you know what? Hey, Ganesh, thanks for purchasing this, term life insurance. But you know what? I noticed your profile, but you should actually try out this other, policy as well. You have these 4 dependents, but so you should try out this other policy. So these are the sort of things that are going to come with personalized video. And what makes that happen? A lot of it is really, again, voice. But, voice in a different purpose, right? Your TTS should be great. The second thing is you should have voice cloning, right? While we get into the ethics of this and all that at some point, the key thing is the opportunities in this industry are tremendous. And that's what I wanted to start my discussion with. Right? In the past, like I said, people talked about chat. Today, a lot of people are talking about voice. And in the future, a lot of people will be talking about video. Right?
Hi, welcome to the management meeting.
Can you move to the next slide, please? So, this is a very basic framework of what we wanted to start with today, right? And this is fairly obvious for almost all of us, right? But I just thought we can set the context, right? In the good old days, you had customer engagement starting with disparate channels, right? Some people used to engage on email, right? Some customers engaged on IVR. Some customers engaged on just, I need to talk to somebody, right? And some salesperson has to come and go and meet them, right? Then all these good folks, Freshworks, Salesforce, all these guys came together and then they said, look, the future is all about self-service. It has to be one common platform, right? A single common platform where humans can talk to customers, right? So this is, really, really something that, people got excited about. But really, this is also yesterday. The future is not about this. The future is about automated bots, right? And what's important with automated bots, and we all obviously very excited about voice today because it's after all a voice conference, right? But it's not always about voice, right? Right? When I did say that maybe chat is not used, but let's face it. Let's take maybe a lending company. Right? So we do a bunch of work, for examples, for collections, automating collections for lending companies using voice bots on, say, telephony lines, right? But let's suppose you wanted to do loan application capture and you wanted to capture alphanumeric codes, right? Today, would you use voice bots for those? You wouldn't, right? Irrespective of what someone tells you, right? So what you'd use there is you may want to use a combination of channels, right? What we call multimodal kind of communication. Maybe start off with voice, maybe move on to say something like a WhatsApp perhaps, which can capture your alphanumeric inputs. People can upload documents for you, right? And you start processing those documents and start, and then your loan application is satisfied, and it's all automated, right? So what we're trying to say here is the future is all about multi or omni-channel bots, right? And it's not just about one channel, it's about multi-channel, right? And that's something I wanted to leave you with. This is a great voice conference, and we do probably 80 to 90% of our work on, voice-based automation. But let's get it clear, right? It's all about solving customer problems, and you solve customer problems by using a combination of channels that works to solve that problem. All right, so this is something, the topic says future as we see it, but actually it's as Gartner sees it, I guess, right? So, and if you really look at this, there are like 4 aspects that Gartner says you need to focus on for this coming year, right? And it says now, and if you look at the yellow side, right, for the next 0 to 1 years. And one of the key things there is virtual assistants. And a lot of folks here today have been speaking on virtual assistants. And virtual assistants in multiple channels. And obviously all of us are excited about virtual assistants on telephony channel because that's an obvious use case, saves a lot of money, great customer service. But there are other channels. It could be on a web channel, right? It could be on any alternate channel where you could have, voice bots play a part, right? And obviously, we have a product, for example, Assist 365 does that. Edge AI is supposed to be another key component, in the future, right? Again, Assist 365 does part of that because you want to sometimes process some of those, I would say, some of those requests on the edge, right? And what really needs to go to the cloud, you move to the cloud, right? And that becomes very important in a number of use cases. Just think about a retail kind of, offline retail kind of use case as well, right? In the future, you're going to have, synthetic bodies. You're going to have, you want to have the ability to process some of that locally, right? As customers go to any of these synthetic bodies and ask some question, you want to have some of those answers done locally, right? Convert speech to text, understand intent, and give out the appropriate reply. But wherever necessary, go to cloud. If you look at Google Assistant today, that's how it really works, right? In a significant portion and more portion as the processor speeds improve, starts going on the edge, right? A very important thing that I want to talk about is low code, no code, right? And extremely excited about that. We are, seeing a lot of our partners, for example, adopt this low code, no code, to reach out to customers. Even when we develop bots for customers, the low code, no code platforms are very, very useful. Obviously, time to market, and then the buzzwords that today the likes of McKinsey and BCG are talking about is single AI. That's what they go and tell every customer, right? It's all about single AI, right? And how does that work, right? So basically, if you start with a channel, and if you move to the next channel, you don't want to repeat your NLU, right? One single NLU should fit all. Take a step back, the guys who did a lot of chat, for example, right? And they said, let's adapt to voice with the single NLU. Unfortunately, that doesn't work, right? Because what happens with chat, it's typically single intent, right? And very largely single entity, right? But really in the real world of voice, like my dad always calls the call center. I tell him don't do it, right? I mean, you can just look it up on the web if you want routine inquiries, but he will call the call center, right? He wants to speak to someone. He said, I want to speak to this person and know his name, right? And he will call him and then he'll say, can you send me my account statement? But can you also tell me my current account balance, right? So it's usually multi-intent when it's voice, right? And traditionally, chatbots or chatbot platforms were built on single intent, right? Again, it has to be multimodal like I talked about. You need the ability to switch from one channel to the other. Sometimes you need the ability to switch from, say, a voice channel like a call center, right, which you're automating, into an actual agent, right? So you need to have all these inbuilt into your platform, right? So it's very important, like I said, so this particular thing that we're hearing about low code, no code, and why we ourselves build it as well, is a time to market. If you really look at what these folks like, or the hugely successful companies like Automation Anywhere, UI part did in the back office. I mean, do they talk verticals? They never do, right? I mean, they only talk business flows, right? And that's what it's about, right? And we need to have our business flows. And for example, our low-code, no-code platform would have, bunch of these business flows ready to take off, right? If you have, if you're looking for, let's say, a lead qualification bot, right? We have it ready. You can just customize it. If you want to do it yourself, you can do it. If you want us to do it, we'll do it, right? And but it would just take a very short period of time to do it. Sometimes within a few hours, sometimes in a couple of days, maximum a week, I guess, right? If it's one of those standard bots. And obviously, we built our libraries as we speak. And today we have a bunch of these bots across the customer lifecycle, right, which are ready to go with minor changes which you could do with a drag and drop interface. Customers come back and they say, you know what, I have Freshworks, right? I need to integrate with Freshworks. It will take me another 2 weeks. We have all the integrations done in our platform, right? So you don't need to really worry about that, whether it's your connectivity, whether it's your CRMs, your ticketing systems, it's all in one place, right? So it's all by drag and drop interface. You can just go ahead, create your bots, apply the appropriate connectors. If you want to write some code on the action items, right? Just go and write those, few pieces of code. There'll be sample code available, and you're good to go, right? So time to market is important. We are not selling something arcane anymore. In the good old days, you would go to customers and say, give me 3 months, give me your data, all your data, and then we'll try to see what we can do with it. And customers sometimes used to even do that, right? But those days are gone now, right? People know that at least to some level, the voice AI will work, right? And there is significant, ROI, right? So you have to have it like a piece of software that you buy, ready, available, off the shelf. The only difference from, say, buying that over any other piece of software, say, say Microsoft Word, is this will get better and better as you keep on training it, right? It has to be priced on pay as you go, right? And it should be ready to launch from day one, right? So that's the key part about low code, no code, and that's very important. Voice biometrics, extremely excited about this, right? And Gartner says that's very important. I mean, passwordless authentication. And if you're looking at a second factor of authentication, what better than your voice, right? And the reason being very simple, right? If you're looking at voice biometrics, your voice really doesn't change over time. Secondly, if you use, for example, a language-independent or text-independent product like we offer on Armor 365. I know some of those other products don't offer it, but like we offer on Armor 365, you could ideally speak or enroll in, say, Hindi, right, or Tamil, or Telugu, or Spanish, right? But when you speak, if you switch to English or any other language, it would still work, right? And it could be like free text. It could be for standard phrases. It could be a dynamic phrase. In the good old days, all of us are used to, saying the same phrase again and again, right? When you want to authenticate for some of these folks that have implemented it. But you know that really, you're putting yourself at risk for all kinds of replay attacks and, multiple types of fraud, right? So it has to be dynamic phrase or it has to be free text, right? It has to be language independent. So if it's all these, right, your voice biometric is just a fantastic, fantastic tool. And why is it so good, right? I mean, what's so great? I mean, so even when I started doing it, customers used to say, and my team said, no, this is great for fraud, removing fraud and all that stuff, right? So I think the wake-up call for us, came when one of our customers who was using a voice bot said, you know what, I'm worried about something. So I asked him, what are you worried about? And he said, look, I had human agents answering customers, and human agents can kind of figure out very often that the voice changes over the call, or there's some basic kind of fraud, it can be done, right? It can't be gamed, right? So, but I'm worried about now you started voice bots. Now I'm worried about it, What if there's some kind of attack that comes in by, by using, I would say, robots to start making these calls, right? And by using some brute force, they start to break the system, right? Now, that's when we decided that, hey, this is a good point. And, as we went going deeper and deeper into it, that's when we realized that the benefits are way beyond fraud. The real benefits to this product are fundamentally about, when you call, the most painful thing is especially if you're a HNI customer, you call your bank and it takes like 40 seconds for them to verify who you are. They take every information about you, right? And then they are kind of convinced, okay, you're probably the right guy, right? And imagine you're saving, if you shave off 40 seconds of a typical 3-minute conversation, it's an enormous cost saving for that financial institution. The second thing is, again from the customer side, if you customer just start speaking 5 to 7 seconds, and you're going to get authenticated. That's just amazing, right? I mean, you don't need to spend 40 seconds. Your customer experience is fantastic, right? So, bunch of these things very clearly tell you that, what really will make a very big impact in the future is voice biometrics. And we're seeing tremendous amount of new use cases, right? For insurance companies, if there are people here, life check is a very big issue for pension policies, right? And so a lot of companies now are looking at voice authentication as a life check. Because see, it's very easy to say, let them download some app and, in this remote times, we'll take a photo and figure out. Yeah, I mean, people in tier 2, tier 3 cities, the only reachable, people in their 70s are only reachable very often using the telephone line over a call, right? So while, facial AI is great, it doesn't work for many cases, especially for this particular use case, right? So you could use our voice AI, authenticate the person. You need to capture obviously the voice print earlier, right? And then you're able to authenticate, and then you make sure that there is no fraud in this in the pension policy, right? So huge opportunities, like I said, in multiple areas using voice biometrics. So this is again a good way of looking at things. One of the biggest complaints that customers have is, I switched to chatbots, but still it tells me to press 1, 2, 3, right? And that was a good old way of doing things, right? Now the new way of doing things, context-based. You identify the intents, you identify the entities, right? And you give out your output, right? And still it tended to be more of rule-based, right? Now the change was voice AI-led, which I think is the context of this entire event, right? Voice AI-led automation starting with voice, but it could be multi-channel, right? Which automates the conversation with customers. And like I said, the future is fundamentally about a lot of stuff on the video AI. For example, the personalized videos that I spoke about, right? So there are huge opportunities that are going to come up. How big is this market? I've been seeing some of those questions. I think we are barely scratching the surface, right? I mean, even every customer is just starting to work with 1 or 2 use cases. Over time, we'll figure out the use cases that work best, right? But it may not work for each and every use case, but I can tell you that probably today about 50 to 60% of all use cases can be automated, right? And over the next 3 to 4 years, we'll go up to 70 to 80%. All right, so I thought just to liven this up a little bit, if we could, try to guess, because how humanoid should the conversation be, right? I mean, some companies say that, I want to identify my bots to be a bot. I don't want to identify it to be a human, right? But there are some companies, I want it to be more human-like so that the responses are better, right? So again, it depends on how you see your brand, how you want to approach it. Some people just call it a bot, right? I am so-and-so bot talking to you, right? But I think the choice lies largely with the brand and the way they want to, see this bot. In case things go wrong, how do you want to make this, bots appear? Is it a human, making a mistake, or say this is a bot that's going to keep improving over time, and that's what you have today, right? And there's tremendous benefits for customers and I would say, companies even today, even with the bots that we have. But I thought at this point, if we could play both these videos one by one.
Hello,
and
this is an important call. Please stay on the line. I'm calling you from Smart Car Loan Dep-
I think that's fine. I think you can play the second
Hello,
video now.
this is an important call. Please stay on the line.
calling you from.
Yeah, you can play the second one.
Hello, I'm Priya calling you from Galaxy Capital. May I talk to you for a few minutes?
Yes, I am free now.
Okay, you can stop there. Yeah.
Hello, I'm
You can stop.
Hello, I'm Priya calling you from Galaxy Capital. May I
You can
talk
pause
to you
it,
for a few minutes?
Yeah. So we showed you two audios. Which do you think is the bot and which is the human? So who all think that the first one is the bot? Okay. Who all think the second one is the bot? So I get approximately 50-50, right? So I think these bots are pretty good then. If your objective is to, I would say simulate a human being, right? Because I saw very clearly 50% of the people saying it's the first voice is the bot, 50% of the people saying the second one is the bot. So definitely, I think if you really look at call center conversations, right? The reality is that given the quality of the voice that you hear in call centers, right? Given the pressures that those folks are under, given that the seats are so close to each other, given the interference that they have, okay, they operate under a lot of stress, right? And they do their best. They have to do like 120 calls a day, right? So that's why you see that even call center folks are becoming robotic. So now I leave it to your choice whether the bots are appearing more human or the call center employees are appearing robotic. But the answer to that question is both of them, right? The voice bots work today, right? And obviously, since you asked that question earlier, if you use voice bots from us, I would say that definitely it would work, right? And the choice is up to the brand, right? Do you want to say that it's a bot answering the question? Do you want to say that it's a human answering the question? You have to make that decision, right? We will help you along the way, but I think it's a personal decision that you need to take, on way you want this to evolve as well, right? Do you want to have it as a multi-channel bot, a common brand name, for example? People are starting to call different brand names for a voice bot and different brand names for a chat bot. So how do you want to do that? So there's a whole lot of marketing that gets into this. How do you represent yourself, and a bunch of those things. Right, so I think we did talk a lot about voice biometrics. So I won't bore you any further. And all right, so a couple of, I did speak about interesting use cases for voice biometrics, such as banking. We spoke a little bit on the insurance side, on your life check, right? Call centers, obvious use case. IT help desk, right? That's an amazing use case. Every time you call, I just want to reset my password. I have to answer like 8 questions. Tell them, things that I don't want them to know very often, right? And, all that can be avoided, especially if it's within your company, right? And your voice bots can do, your voice biometrics, right, can identify you as you start speaking within a few seconds and start answering your questions. So I would say IT help desk is just another fantastic use case. A bunch of others which we'll talk more, and you guys can reach out to me at some point. But this is a fantastic technology, guys. Okay. All right, so I think this is overall on the voice bot, and we had a bunch of things that you probably heard over the course of the day, and you'll hear tomorrow. But really, voice bots, as we see it, work across the customer life cycle, right? It's not just the customer service piece, right? So if you want to use it for lead qualification, I have 1 million potential leads and I want to qualify them. I mean, that's a great option to use a voice bot, right? Because you just want to ask a few questions, qualify the customer and move on, right? Because the biggest issue is, can you just for qualifying right, hire a bunch of call center folks. Secondly, are they meant for this? Call center folks are people with empathy, are people who can listen to customers and who should be doing all that kind of good stuff. Not here to ask like 3 questions and keep the phone down, which is what a bot can do, right? Move on to multiple use cases, right? If it's after your customer is verified, you onboarded your customer, right? You want to collect some documents from him, right? And you might use a combination of a voice bot, you may use a WhatsApp bot, or a bunch of other things, right? And then collect the documents that you need for him to start off. Then you want to welcome him to be your customer, right? And what better than a voice bot to do that? Do you really want to welcome him by human just saying hi, how are you, and I mean, this is absolute waste of time, right? Moving on to a bunch of things, okay, if you just go back to the previous slide. Yeah, so a lot of other things like inbound customer support is the obvious use case. A lot of us use voice bots for. We've seen great success with not only like call center inbound, but even with features like click to call, for example, which is a fantastic use case. You have something on your app, you just click it, and it goes off to a bot which answers your questions. Now that you might use the microphone in your mobile phone, or you might use a traditional, I would say, telephony system, right? But great applications for these, right? Again, surveys and feedback, huge opportunities for post-engagement support. You want feedback from any product that you have. And today what you use, ratings and rankings, and try to say that this is my NPS, right? And that doesn't work, right? If you really want to, that's good if you want to tell management that, my rating is at 4.8 out of 5. But if you really want to do something about it, voice-based feedback, collect the intents, collect the problems that, customers have, and do something about it, right? And I think that's very powerful. And it's only when you speak, right? I was speaking to a gentleman just before this call, and he said the typical issues is he sends out all these links for feedback, and people never fill the free text, right? They just don't. They'll just say 3 out of 5, 4 out of 5, 5 out of 5. But what do you do? I mean, if it's really 3 out of 5, you want to know why it's 3 out of 5, right? And you want to take some action on that, right? So that's where a voice-based feedback is a tremendous thing that will take you to the next level. Again, bunch of things that we do on that you can see on collections, claims. Just the opportunities are just tremendous, right? Again, briefly, I spoke about this low-code, no-code platform again, which Gartner identified. It's very important to have shorter time to markets, right? You just can't start coding from scratch every time a new bot has to be built, right? So it's very important to have a low-code, no-code platform across channels, ready connectivity, right? So that, for example, if you want to launch something on Avaya, we have ready connectivity, this voice bot platform. You just need to select Avaya, and your bots are ready to launch, right? The flow is created by a drag and drop interface, right? And you just identify which CRM you want to use, which ticketing tool, and then you're good to go, right? So we think it's very important as we also step into the next phase. I think we are in very, very, very early stages, and very great news for Jamal and his team, because I think we're going to have a lot more voice conferences, because the industry is just starting out, right? And I think we are barely at 2 or 3% of total volumes that you will see for many of these voice interfaces, right? And but what we think is that it's very important to have deep tech in order to succeed, right? Because this is not a solved problem, right? And as companies are starting to realize more and more, taking these standard APIs off the shelf will not help you solve these problems. For obvious reasons, they are meant often for a different purpose. You need to have custom tuned models for your application, whether on the speech side, on the NLU side, even on the accent side, or maybe even on how people in a particular geography respond, right? I mean, maybe since we're on that line, I'll talk about something that we recently saw, right? And this was with something that we thought, English is fairly common, and your NLUs will work everywhere, right? So we were doing this for a certain, I would say, certain part of Chennai, particular voice bot, implementation, right? And we found that people and bots, there was one intent for which it was failing, right? And you know what that intent was? The word that I keep saying over the course is righto, right? People apparently say righto to say, they agree or they are in, they agree with that, whatever is being said, right? So now that was something new that we had to then introduce into the system. Since we had this, low-code platform, we could add that intent, right? And we could retrain our models, right? So this is not a solved problem, right? You're going to get a lot more. Yesterday I was speaking to somebody who said, I want something for Khasi in Meghalaya, right? Firstly, is there enough data for Khasi that you can develop a voice bot, right? And so how do you do? These are like low resource kind of languages, right? So these are the kind of deep tech kind of challenges that are going to come up even more in the future, right? If it's a language like Hindi, Kannada, or Tamil or Malayalam, it's fine. You can obviously build, your own speech engines and so on and so forth. But will you be able to build it for Khasi, right? Given the population of, say, Meghalaya, right? And within Meghalaya, there are so many other languages also spoken, right? Will it work for English spoken in Meghalaya, for example? Will your English bot work for that, right? So these are the kind of challenges that will come up, right? And once the obvious use cases are kind of solved, right, you're going to see a lot of these cases where you will need to have your custom models, right? And so it's very important to have deep tech. So again, coming to the end of this presentation, again, thanks to our partners, Avaya, whom we work closely with, for solutions in this industry, and we work together for some of our customers in bringing, the right solution for that customer. Okay. So that's all that I have for this presentation. If you have any questions, ready to take it up. Otherwise, I'm always reachable. We have a booth out here just outside this conference room, and you can reach out to me or any of the DLs from my company. Okay. Any questions? Otherwise, we'll come to the end of this presentation.
So we've been speaking a whole lot about voice tech, and some of the interesting things that you mentioned was on the voice biometric. While one of the examples that you rightly cited, we don't want to tell a whole lot of our personal information to the help desk guy. How do enterprises ensure that some of the insurance or banking information, which is actually being transposed or transferred to the bot, is not misused or is not exposed? How are enterprises adapting to that to ensure the information is secure?
So that's obviously a fantastic question, right? This is the biggest concern for enterprises, right? The one thing I'll say on the negative side to that, however, is a lot of companies are very open to give out all their personal information on Google first, right? And secondly, if they're using a Google API, they don't even worry about it, right? Say, okay, that's fine, that's Google, they know everything anyway, right? But I think the point is very valid, so I think it's very important to have a control on your data, right? So the organizations, many of them whom we work with, we have clear agreements, for example, that we will not train with your data, right? And if we train with your particular data, only you will get that benefit first, right? Secondly, data purge, right? The data purge frequency has to be very clearly established in every contract, right? Sometimes in a hurry, various people don't, the customers don't, you may not, the provider may not, it just, but this is very important, right? And it should be a conscious decision. So some organizations that we work with say that, purge the data as soon as you process it. So that's a very simple solution to it, right? But some people want to keep that data for further analytics, right? But then who owns that data? It has to be the customer, period, right? Who owns that data? Nobody else. It's his data, it's his customers, right? And what do you do with the data is a decision he has to take, right? And if he says that, okay, the data has to be, typically customers themselves also don't want to keep all this data, right? Because again, that's not good as well, right? So some sort of aggregate data that they may keep for analytics and other purposes, but typically what we've seen in many cases is a purge after say 30 days, right? And if we work with customers, we typically insist that we will also give you a purge certificate, okay? So after 30 days, we assure that we have purged. Or if we are storing it in only the data in the customer's private cloud, for example, right? Even in those cases, we make it clear that, look, we are not responsible because now it is going to your private cloud, we cannot delete it. Typically what we say is no SCP for many of this critical data. It's very important, okay? And if you start allowing SCP to multiple users, then again you are running the risk of your data being compromised. Very good question, and I wish a lot more folks, is really for both end customers, right? For customers who are adopting these voice practices, and for providers like us. These are very important because nobody wants these issues to come up, right, in the future, right? And it's bad for all of us, bad for the entire ecosystem if such a thing happens, right? And while it's not good to get to the other extreme and say that, I won't let anything get out of my system, because like I said, the first thing I said is people have absolutely no issues with giving all their personal data to Google, giving even corporate data by making an API call to Google if they want speech to text, or any of those global providers, right? But you need to be conscious of what you are doing and definitely have a purge policy. I think that's very important.
So I have another question. So you mentioned voice biometrics and voice authentication, which is practically the future of voice tech, which is not implemented in 2022. So as a common person like me, I would have a very simple question. I know many people who can, I know voice is unique, but I know many people who can duplicate someone else's voice. So is that possible? And if it is, then how do you handle it?
So this basically, it goes by the vocal track, right? And goes by a number of features that we measure. If you really look at it, features that every person's actually voice footprint is unique.
Okay.
From the pitch standpoint, the frequencies at which you speak, and we look at 200 plus features.
Okay.
Okay, and good point. One thing is, obviously what you talked about is mimicry, right?
Right.
But there's another thing. Today you can, for example, record a person's voice.
Exactly.
And play it, right? So that's called a replay attack, right?
Okay.
So obviously you need to have engines that take care of both these kind of attacks, right? And that is one of the core things in any voice biometrics product, which you need to take care in your AI models, that it can handle both these kind of situations.
I see, I see. So can we differentiate between a human voice and a machine-generated voice with the same frequency?
Yes, yes. And that's typically called a replay attack. For example, that's why I mentioned something about dynamic passwords.
Right.
If you have a single password every time every customer logs in, then you just need to record that password and use it, right? And then now, firstly, it is your voice. Okay, one person has to duplicate your voice, and secondly, the phrase that is being spoken,
Has to be
that also changes every time someone validates, right? So so you need to have the capability to duplicate both, which is almost very tough.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much. So
you.
do we have any other questions? Or we could let, oh yeah, there we have one question.
You mentioned Google API a couple of times. So for a user company, how would you guide in terms of pros and cons? One is, of course, maybe the Indianization, but apart from that, how do we differentiate between Indian players and the global players, and which APIs or which?
See, I think for companies, it's an obvious decision to take. First and foremost is your accuracies, right? Which you're expecting, right? Second is, you don't need to worry anymore about uptimes, right? Because we are, or any of the providers will be on all the cloud platforms, right? So if And the advantage that we obviously would offer is offer this APIs on your favorite cloud platform, right? If you want Azure, any platform that you like, we would offer it, right? So that's an advantage. Accuracies are important. Secondly, how much you want to control your voice, I mean your data, right? That's very important as well. And that's a decision for organizations to take. But I guess the first and fundamental decision is, the quality, right? Quality of your speech to text, and for your domain, how does it work, right? Are you trying to use the APIs for a mobile-based, great microphone, or a Alexa kind of, multi-array phone, or are you looking for like an 8K device, right? Or let's suppose you're trying to do analytics here, right? What codecs do you use, right? And secondly, you are looking at 8K, 16K, what kind of compression. I think a lot of these go into the decision, so I wouldn't say that there is one factor that you would like to consider, but I would definitely say that obviously test out. There are other options available to the global guys today. We are one option, for example. Test out if it makes sense for your application. Secondly, do you really want a custom model, right? Now, like the example, I don't know whether I gave that example. We're working with a bank, and they started off by looking at all three, like a couple of global guys and us for English, Indian English. The global guys are supposed to be pretty good at English, right? And they found fairly similar accuracies between the global guys and us. We think we were like 0.5% better, but approximately the same for English, Indian English. But what really happened, and we think we are far better in other languages, but this was English. But what really happened was they wanted, but really it was a telephone line with lot data, highly compressed, right? And a lot of, I would say, crosstalk, all that stuff. And they said this accuracy, we can't go with anybody. So they wanted a custom model. So if you want a custom model, you'll have to work with somebody who's ready to do it for you, right? And not just bump up, just use an API and use some bump up capabilities. So like I said, it's not, I can't give you one answer, right? Obviously price is another concern. Whether you're ready to pay that 60 paise approximately for a 15-second, kind of excess, or you want to pay less or you want to pay more, that's your choice as well. So I would say, as any other product, quality and price are the top two things, but there are a lot of other factors which play into this, which has to be out of testing. Unfortunately, you have to test for a domain. What people typically do is they test for some generic audios, and then they try to draw a conclusion that I have to go with this platform or the other, right? And even if you have shortlisted a particular cloud platform, it doesn't matter, right? Because today, anybody can offer an API on any platform, right? Again, bunch of things. Are you looking at gRPC? Are you looking at MRCP? What is it? And so there's also the recording is the key thing. What kind of compression? So you have to take all this into account. Ideally, I would say test out the final product that you're looking to, deploy this for. And for that, you make a choice. You may want to actually make different choices and an ideal situation, if the organization allows, for, I would say, every application.